Pirms 300 gadiem ukraiņi palīdzēja izveidot impēriju. Tagad viņu misija ir šo pašu impēriju piebeigt. Tā saka pasaulslavena ukraiņu rakstniece par vēsturi un nākotni. Oksana Zabužko, Viens, pret vienu. Oksana Zabužko, welcome to Latvia.
Thank you very much.
And it's my pleasure to have you on this program one-on-one. Your works have been translated into more than 20 languages around the world, including Latvian. And now your world-famous novel, Field Work in Ukrainian Sex, widely regarded as a contemporary classic, written in 1996, almost 30 years ago, finally is published in Latvian as well. And that's the reason why you are here. How do you feel about this event?
That's one of the reasons why I'm here, because I have another novel of mine which appeared a couple of months ago. That's the Museum of Abandoned Secrets, and mostly, by most critics, it's considered to be my opus magnum, and Swiss Tagesanzeiger has included it on the list of the top 20 novels of the 21st century, and so on and so forth. But you are right, Field Work in Ukrainian Sex is still my most translated book, which is all the more paradoxical that I think it's totally untranslatable. It's very complex in the language, and I have no idea how Mara Polakova, my Latvian translator, had made it all.
She did a good job?
I assume so. I only had the feedback from the very first critics.
We'll come back to your book a bit later in this interview, but I would like to start February 24, 2022, because I think this is a time that divided life into before and after for so many people.
That's
Ukraine
right.
and here and around the world.
Right.
You weren't in Ukraine then, you were in Poland. Again,
That's
this is about your book. How do you remember the day and the days after?
Well, it's not only that I remember it, but I wrote about it. And my essay, book-long essay entitled The Longest Journey, which is also available in Latvian, by the way. I've got 4 books translated into Latvian in the past 2 years, which also shows how much that was the dividing line, because prior to 2022 there was not much interest in Ukrainian literature in Latvia, and then all of a sudden all Latvian publishers wanted to read Ukrainian literature and to find out how we are making it all. So coming back to this February 24, I start this longest journey with an introduction, how I came to Poland on February 23, because that was the day when, according to my Polish publisher's schedule, my new Polish book appeared in print. And I came for a 3 days promo visit, which actually lasted much longer than I expected. And in this first 13 months of the invasion, it was hardly more than 3 days that I was at home at all. I was traveling all the time. In the end of 2022, Google congratulated me with having visited 21 countries and 93 cities this year. And I screamed back at this stupid machine, like, "You idiot, who told you I wanted to?" Because that was, congratulations, Oksana, you visited 21 countries and 93 cities.
You were born in Lutsk, right?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, it's northwestern Ukraine. And recently, Russia hit Lutsk by what has been the most devastating strike on the city since the war began. And what was it like to receive this news, and can one get used to war?
Well, I spent first 7 years of my life in Lutsk. I went to school in Kiev, and that's where I am staying on a regular basis. And that's where we are having Russian missile attacks literally every other night. So it is not just that city or another. It is entire Ukraine, and every morning in Ukraine still starts with checking what happened in the night and then calling your friends or relatives in Kharkiv or Lutsk or Sumy or Zaporizhia.
Are you okay?
Or whatever. Yeah. How are you? Are you okay? Yeah. So, you know, it does not look, how should I put it? It looks a little bit different from inside than you read about it from abroad. Because, yeah, you are a journalist, you know what making things newsworthy is. Mm-hmm. You know, to make something newsworthy, you need some emotionally engaging picture, emotionally engaging videos, information, people like spending day and night in the subway, and that's true. That's true. Many people in Kiev now spend their nights in the subway because it's a very convenient place where you can stay safely. And yes, it looks impressive on TV or video or Instagram or whatever. While, in fact, well, I don't know, you learn to live with it. You know, you can recognize different sounds. You decide whether you should go to hide in the corridor or not, or just on another side and go on sleeping if the sounds are not too loud. So it's kind of a new technology of survival.
Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk stated recently that Russia's war in Ukraine is a part of a political project aimed to be subjugating other nations. This war is also our war. If we lose it, the consequences will affect not only our generation, but also the next generation in Poland, Europe, in the United States, and around the world. That was Tusk warning. But how do you think the West is still too cautious, and its reaction perhaps still influenced by the old myth of invincibility of Russian army?
Well, I think it's time to say goodbye to that myth, at least after 2022, when most of the experts were giving us 72 hours and praying for rest in peace, Ukraine. You know, most of the news on Western social media were read on February 24. And since I was in Europe, I was stuck in the EU at the time myself. You know, I could sense this atmosphere very well from inside. So the fact that that Ukrainian army defeated Russians in this attack on northern part of the country, and that we won the battle for Kiev in 2 months, yes, with with horrible, massacres in the outskirts of Kiev, in suburbia, in Bucha, Irpin, and other places which became internationally known since then. We have defeated Russian army, which was then described by, I think, some American expert as that was a very nice saying. Let me remember. We were thinking that Russian army was the second in the world, and it appeared to be only second in Ukraine.
Right, it's good. It's nice saying. You say that Ukrainians had a historic role. 300 years ago, they helped build an empire, and now their mission is just to end this empire.
Right. That's right.
Could you explain it?
Well, it depends on how much time we are having.
You have a time.
Because it's an issue, which deserves, I don't know, a lecture course or something like this. It's one of my
your favorite topics.
It's
we
one
don't
of my
have
favorites.
so much time, but we have a time.
Yeah. I really love to dwell upon that because there is a lot of misunderstanding in the Western reception of Russia, which I think contributed to the rise of the contemporary Russian fascism. Or Nazism, I don't know, you name it. We call it Russism, just for the convenience of the term, but politically the current, current version of Russian totalitarianism still remains under-described, so to speak, by Western political scientists. Among what is special, about this misunderstanding is precisely this imperial view of Russia as a 1,000 years long empire, and Kiev being Kiev history, the history of Kiev Rus, being a part of Russia or origins of Russia, and all this business, about Russia being the heir of Eastern Orthodox tradition and so on and so forth. No way. No way, and I really love, these new trends in Western Slavic studies about Russia. Russia reverting into Muscovy. I think that was the title of the book by Swedish scholar Hedlund. Who took time to analyze those major Western misunderstandings about Russia. And yes, there was Muscovy, and yes, Russian Empire appeared as a brainchild of our Ukrainian Kiev, to be more precise, Baroque intellectuals of the 17th, late 16th, early 17th century, who were very unhappy with the Jesuit expansion on the side of Poland and with the war with the Ottoman Empire from the south on the same time. That was the 17th century, was the period of religious wars and Polish politics towards us Ruthenians. That was the name of the time. Was, I would say, very unfavorable. The demand to convert into Catholicism was an absolute something which otherwise is, if you are not a Catholic, you were not recognized as a nobleman, you were not recognized in any rights of yours, and so on.
So
and
that
so
was
forth.
the reason to come closer
So
to
that
Russia?
that was not the reason to come closer to Russia. I told you, it calls for a longer story.
Okay.
That was the reason to invent the project of an Orthodox empire, which will conquer two ideological enemies at the same time, and which will solve two major problems of Ukraine at the same time.
Okay.
Ottomans,
And
Turks from the south, so to conquer the Turks from the south and to get free access to the black soil steppes and to the Black Sea, and to push back Poles into their ethnic lands.
Okay, I see. It's really a long story, but
it is a long story.
And now it's time to destroy it. Yeah.
So that was Khmelnytsky project, which now has exhausted itself. Actually, it has exhausted itself back in the past century, in the 20th century. Now it's time to finish it completely, because what Putin, and please don't cut this out, what Putin now gives to Tucker Carlson and all these Western interviewers who want to listen to him is all this bullshit about historical tradition, all this bullshit about one nation and things like this. All these are quotations from Theophan Prokopovich, Innocenty Gizel, and other Ukrainian Baroque authors of the 17th century. That was the ideological justification of the Muscovy as Christian country and with European faith that our forefathers have invented.
Okay, so as a writer, you understand characters very well. Do you think Putin realizes that empire is sinking, is coming to an end?
He does have the feeling. He does have the feeling. He does have this premonition a couple of times. He was making these statements like Russia might disappear, Russia might get fragmented, our enemies. That's his KGB language. Like, our enemies want Russia fragmented into Russians, into Muscovites, Urals, and so on and so forth. But that's the fear. That's a problem. That's a problem with the entire modern Russian culture. That this fear of the collapse of the empire has been permeating modern Russian culture since the 19th century. And that was the big trouble, that without the empire, there will be the void, because there is no ethnic basis, there is no Russian people. Russian people is mere ideological construct. There is a number of different tribes which were subjugated in their times, and the empire, this politically authoritarian, despotic system, is the only thing that keeps them together, devouring him in the process.
And otherwise there is a void.
But otherwise there is a void, and this fear of void is a major characteristic of Russian education and Russian mentality.
So if very few Russian cultural figures like Boris Akunin or Alla Pugachev or Boris Grebenshchikov have openly condemned the war, just very few, do you have a sense of what's really going on in the minds of Russian intellectuals about this? Is this because of this void, on other reasons?
Yeah, they have, well, they belong to the same, I would say, you know, how should I put it? I think it's, you know, another misunderstanding on the part of the West to believe that the so-called good Russians, as we call them, if they are against Putin, that means that they are for some good Russia. They are still in support of this political system, and the same Boris Akunin, whom you mentioned, has done a lot to contribute to the myth of the empire. He has written the whole library, you know, of these eulogies for the empire, so helping to build the myth up.
At least he's
because
condemning
otherwise, I mean, otherwise it is a very dramatic situation, actually, because you cannot, as a writer, for instance, it must be very difficult to write in a language which you feel. Brodsky was, by the way, the first one who had this historical intuition and who really felt into panic with the independence of Ukraine and with I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Who really felt into panic with the collapse of the Soviet Union, with the independence of Ukraine, and with this sense of Russian cultural influence shrinking, and it immediately started to shrink in the West back in the 90s. So the feeling, you know, that your linguistic influence, your cultural influence, everything we call might, force, loses its force, loses its power, disappearing, gradually disappearing. My goodness, I mean, that's very traumatic feeling, must be. And I have all the sympathy, you know, for my Russian colleagues, you know, who are now facing the situation that they write in the condemned language, because their language had amassed so many lies within itself that Orwell probably would have got crazy, Orwell himself. And how to work with this language, how to purify it without the most spectacular collapse of the empire and then subsequent derussification, which should take more than one generation, well, I have no answer.
You wrote 2 months after the war began, you published the essay No Guilty People in the World, subtitle Reading Russian Literature After the Bucha Massacre. You contrast Germany's sense of historical guilt with Russia's apparent lack of that sense.
Yes.
What explains that contrast? Why?
Very good question, because there is actually no parallel. You know, there is no Russian Thomas Mann now. You cannot name a Russian Thomas Mann, a more or less prominent figure. Okay, you named 3 of them, none of them Thomas Mann, of course, but anyway, at least you know 3 figures nationally known or nationally recognized, yeah? None of them actually goes as far as to claim openly and overtly that he or she wants the defeat of his or her country in this unjust, genocidal extermination war that their country is conducting. And they don't pronounce this word. They don't speak of extermination war, of genocidal war. They say that Putin is wrong, okay. And the war is bad, of course. To claim something, to make a statement like the war is bad is not that much in contemporary Russia, and that just proves, you know, the decay, moral and intellectual decay of that culture, that the phrase like war is bad, well, is my goodness, the acme of Russian revolutionary thought of the 21st century. My goodness, so what is the rest then?
One more character, Donald Trump. Recently, Finland's president, Alexander Stubb, who has playing golf with the American president, said that this is only a matter of time before the United States hits Russia's leader, Vladimir Putin, where it hurts. Having seen the carrots really work with the Russians, he has moved to the stick stage. Now it's just a question of how big the stick is going to be. I'm quoting Finland's president. So, do you share this view? What do you think about character Donald Trump in this historical situation?
That's an interesting character, you are right. Not that, well, I'm not following what he's saying because it doesn't matter, absolutely. And I think that's...
I'm quoting Finnish president.
No. I'm speaking about Donald Trump, who can't be judged by what he is saying, because words don't mean anything to him. I don't know. Well, it's like a new level of... well, how should I put it? A new level of populism. Populism is too soft a word for that. Like new degree of political mockery or political trolling or whatever. Actually, he takes, I would say, a step further as compared to Putin. But they are the guys from the same drawer. I'm not saying that Trump is a KGB agent or something, but the style, the style of political behavior is the same, and I'm afraid that this style takes root in the Yalta world, in the Yalta-shaped world, where these big guys, the leaders of the big countries, sit in a row and decide, claim sentences to the small ones whom they divide and part to their taste. Well, they are there to rule the world, to split it into their zones of influence, and those small have to obey, and that's the rule of brutal force. Just who is big. Like, I mean, this dialogue between Donald Trump and Vladimir Zelensky in the Oval Office was very spectacular with that regard. Like, you don't have cards. I'm not playing cards. Zelensky replied, not that I'm not his fan, by the way. I did not vote for President Zelensky. But that was interesting from, I would say, from the point of view of cultural studies, that dialogue, because yes, there are two different systems of values. Yeah, you don't have cards.
But then Donald Trump's role in the fate of Ukraine, future of Ukraine?
It is not about future of Ukraine. It's about the future of Europe. It's about the end of this World War II politics in which all the European nations are those small ones who belong under either under an American or under Russian umbrella, under Washington or under Moscow. And this division has been preserved through all these 30 years, 30 pre-war years that now has come to the end back in 2022. I mean, yeah, we are still, even though, okay, you are in the EU, yeah, but you are still Easterners, right? You are still these young democracies who were supposed to to listen and to learn from the so-called old democracies, right? And no one actually was speaking of, in terms of old empires and old colonies, right? So different experiences, and all this now surfaces, only now it all surfaces when Donald Trump is going to take away this American umbrella. Yalta is over, 1940, the agreements of 1945 are over, they could not last, they lasted long enough. So this war is not any regional conflict, you know, it's the war which starts really global changes, which has already started, these really global changes, which had been in need for decades now.
Decades?
Yes.
You think decades?
Absolutely. Back in the 90s, you know, things, if the humanity were smarter, and not playing with this, you know, Fukuyama's end of history concept and thinking in more realistic terms. If we learned our history lessons better than back in the 90s, the natural fragmentation of the Russian Federation, which was going on after 1991, were not stopped. And we wouldn't have this FSB-ruled empire now contagious and infecting with its agent and with its propaganda and with its lies the whole world.
You've written about Ukrainians themselves. You've written about the past, how the best and the strongest were killed in the war for independence, starved in the Holodomor, and destroyed again and again, and those who remained weren't the strongest but the most enduring ones. Who will survive this war? And how do you see post-war Ukraine?
Well, I think the most important thing that we have learned from these 11 years of the war so far, because for us it started in 2014. I mean, the hot war, yeah. The most important lesson that we learned is that we have that amount, we do possess that amount of vitality that really permits us to look in the future with much more confidence than the past century allowed us. And what we are now struggling for is actually our existence in the future. And yes, it is our freedom. And with freedom, you know, and independence in the future, we will survive. I can, you know, repeat it with the voice of glory again, or yes, we will survive.
In the introduction of your new book, you remind Latvian readers of the book's significant impact on the social changes it reflected or even helped spark in Ukrainian society at the time, 90s. In your view, how much power, and then there was values, you were searching for answers for national identity, importance of language, the role of women in post-Soviet Ukraine. Now, today, how much power does a writer to initiate change? And what kind of change we should wait for?
Well, you know, the 90s is now like the Trojan War, because in the 21st century we were having two Maidans, and each of them had been transforming Ukrainian society on a very considerable scale. We've proved to be quick learners, and we've changed a lot. I don't use the term, you know, post-Soviet since 2004, after the Orange Revolution, and I really loved. You know, I once was having an interesting conversation, lunch and conversation with your former president, Vicky Freiberger, who told me an interesting story that she was, when she got in the office, she was the first woman in this part of the world in that position, so she had the line of journalists wanting, eager, well, to interrogate her, and each of them was starting with, you are post-Soviet republic, so after 3 or 4 post-Soviet, she said, young man, go out and wash your mouth. We are not a post-Soviet republic. We are the country that restored its independence. And I said, bravo. I loved it a lot. You know, as a writer, that is someone who works with language on a very intimate matter, I know how important it is to name things properly. Well, post-Soviet period, well, the 90s and everything, that's another story. Well, while speaking about what a writer can do now, what a writer can do in the war, yes, writers in Ukraine are in a very high demand, in an extremely high demand, and all those disappointed Western colleagues of mine, you know, when they come to Ukraine and when they see these crowds of readers on literary festivals and 3.5 hours long lines on the book signing sessions and everything, well, they get really the feeling that literature can do something important to help people to survive the most murky times in their lives, to give them the feeling of a meaning of what they are experiencing. That's what literature does. Literature finds words to make things meaningful. And that's exactly what is in the demand during such tectonic changes that society at war experiences. So it's a big advantage now to be a Ukrainian writer.
It's nice. Talking about historical period we are living in, and you mentioned that it would take decades maybe, and you have said that we are in a zone of turbulence and we need to buckle up.
Fasten our belts.
Fasten our belts. For Latvian audience, what kind of belt would Latvia need here in Baltics?
Well, frankly, I don't think I'm authorized to give you advice after 3 days of being in the country. I don't know the language.
You know history.
I don't know the language and everything. Well, but to be serious, yes, I think that that you need to be more vigilant, and you need to beware, and you need to be probably, I would say, well, less tolerant with the people who present potential threat for your security. I mean this Russian-speaking minority that remains in the sphere of Russian information influence, and this is very dangerous, really very dangerous, because not paying attention to the fact that these people live in a different bubble, and that this bubble is huge. Mm-hmm. That they are kind of alienated, you know, from Latvian national interests and from Latvian identity and whatever, and they take things as they are described, you know, by Russian propaganda in one way or another. And that's, well, I can, if I have like 2 or 3 minutes, I can give you an example why I am saying this, because since the moment that I entered Latvia, Facebook, I guess, or Google probably identified me as, I don't know, maybe Russian immigrant or something like this. I got the avalanche of Latvian news in Russian. Well, they, I think, you know, they identify Cyrillic segment, yes, Cyrillic sector. And yeah, okay, now I am in Latvia, so all this, you know, Latvian news in Russian. And what I can perceive immediately is this kind of, I would say, condescending tone. You know, not I would not say unfavorable, but condescending. Mm-hmm. Kind of critical or ironic with regard to to some political decisions of government or of local authorities, like kind of not exactly mockery or something, but some condescending, ironic tone, some ironic smile somewhere between the line. Goodness, I do recognize this. We used to have it in this decade, in this, you know, Russian-controlled media in Ukraine in the decade before 2014, and it is like, you know, déjà vu and déjà entendu, and for me, you know, it's an immediate alert. It is like, oh, okay, so that's what they serve. What kind of news about the country they serve to the Russian minority. So I think it's dangerous, yeah. So you should be like, I would say, more caring. That's definitely, I can use the word should, you know, without any hesitance, any doubt. You should be more careful about your security.
Oksana Zabužko, thank you very much for your very interesting interview. Thank you.
Thanks for this conversation.
Thank you.